Show me.
I'm the martial arts film freak, and I watched Undercover Punch and Gun, or Undercover versus Undercover, whichever title you watch this movie under. I watched it.
你签了之后，就可以做回一名真正的警察。这个案子还没有完。你演黑社会演的那么像，我怎么知道你是卧底？买我送他。
Undercover vs. Undercover is a 2019 Hong Kong film directed by Louis Kun Nam and Frankie Tam and starring a pretty stacked cast. A cast including Philip Ong, Vanessa Wu, Andy On, very shortly Nicholas T. I wish Nicholas T. should be in everything more. He's only in this movie for about 2 or 3 minutes. Wen Zhuang Feng, and of course Liu Zhejiang, who is one of my very favorites right now. Well, when I get to see her, she doesn't do very much anymore because China, but when she does stuff, she's amazing. The film follows Philip Ong, who is an undercover police officer who is married to this, well, I guess is engaged to this crime boss's daughter, and then his crime boss, who he's undercover for, dies, and then he becomes the head of the gang, and then he also gets sucked in to this overseas Pacific Ocean mess where some other crime lord is then saying like, hey, I want you to get me this guy so they can do this job for me, and since he's undercover, he's like, oh, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I'll take down 2 organizations, and that part got confusing. The movie, I guess, went a little too overboard with a lot of the undercover stuff while also not going on board enough with some of the undercover stuff, because sometimes him being undercover never really felt that integral to the story. Like, it's a huge thing at the very beginning. He's an undercover cop. There might be a mole somewhere, but we know it's not you because we trust you. And then after he becomes the leader of the gang because the boss dies in the first 2 minutes, that it doesn't really feel that important anymore. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I missed a subtitle to read. I don't know. But, This movie perhaps doesn't struggle with the tone. It knows what tone it wants. It just struggles with balancing it. It struggles in the execution of the tone that it wants. Because the movie wants to be dark and gritty at times, but then it also wants to make a joke, wants to be lighthearted. You'll be in a tense situation, and then Vanessa Wu, who is the comedic foil of the movie, will just come in being really annoying. Andy On will be menacing as a villain, or some other cop will be all stoic and straight-faced, and then Vanessa Wu will come in and essentially be Jack Sparrow turned up to 1100. That is Vanessa Wu, and it gets difficult sometimes. He's like even annoying to his only friend. Philip Ong, our main character, he is annoying to him. Like, there's just a scene of them in a car, and Vanessa Wu is just popping and locking, and he pisses off Philip Ung and just, like, throws his phone across the car. How annoying can your character be when he's also pissing off his only friend? Another pretty good example of what I mean with this movie struggling with its tone is, in one scene, we see a sniper pick off 3 people, one by one, as the friends are just freaking out that their friends are getting picked off. And then the next moment, Andy On is being all villainous to Philip Ung and making a joke that because Philip Ung was rude to him, he has to unfriend him on Facebook. I'm cool with the movie having lighthearted moments and also being extremely tense. You know, plenty of movies have done that before and done it very, very well. This movie just did not feel like it balanced those two aspects very well. However, while the movie does struggle to balance its tone, it is still wholly watchable because just an extremely charismatic cast. Philip Ng is incredible. Andy On is always amazing. Those two have incredible chemistry. If you've seen their first film together, I believe it was their first film together, Once Upon a Time in Shanghai, I highly recommend it. It is one of the best kung fu movies of the last decade. It's just great. Those two are two of the main characters, and they have fantastic chemistry. Vanessa Wu, even though he is annoying, is an extremely charismatic person. And then you have side characters, Liu Zhejiang and a couple other people who just, they know how to hold screen. They have very good screen presence. So just the talent in this movie, even if the characters or the story isn't quite balancing right, them as performers are just that good enough to keep you invested. But of course, I was drawn to this movie for its action. The trailers looked surprisingly good. I have my defenses up whenever I go into a Chinese movie. I'll get into this in a second, what I'm getting into. Whenever you get excited for a Chinese film, that does not include Donnie Yen in it, because Donnie Yen has some sort of creative control that he can do whatever the f*** he wants. You get excited for a kung fu movie, and then you get something like Kung Fu League or Unity of Heroes or some other absolute garbage like that. China just does not make good martial arts or kung fu movies anymore. They are not trying to. They make really, really bad ones because they don't care about them anymore. However, as I looked at the country of origin on IMDb, I saw that it said Hong Kong for this movie. It didn't say China, it said Hong Kong. And I got a little excited. My defenses were down. I let the defenses down. I took in this movie. I was like, I'm going to watch a Hong Kong action police movie. So many good ones in the past. Is this going to be another good one? And I gotta say, I was not let down with the action here. The current, or last decade or so, last maybe 15 years. Let's go back to about 2006 or so. The last generation and a half of martial arts and kung fu superstars from China and Hong Kong are perhaps some of the most underutilized you're going to find. Throughout the 80s and the 90s, the 70s, you got all those amazing stars, Gordon Liu, Jackie Chan, the Three Dragons, anybody from Shaw Brothers, Donnie Yen, Michelle Yeoh, Moon Lee, Jet Li, just all of that huge crop of people who just got to go on to be absolute mega stars. And then you get into the later 2000s, and as China starts wrapping up on kung fu movies and Hong Kong's film industry starts to die, you still have incredible talent who were raised on those 80s and 90s, these 70s kung fu movies, and said, I want to go do that. And the problem was the landscape for that started to crumble. They didn't have anywhere to go do that. The movies that were being made started to slip away. There weren't that many. And so this crop of talent is absolutely capable. They are incredible, and they just haven't had that much to do. Every now and again, you get gems like the movie I just spoke about, Once Upon a Time in Shanghai, King of Triads for Liu Zhejiang, True Legend for Andy On. Andy On is just, I love Andy On so much. But this movie really got to let those people just make good fight scenes, and that was a big surprise. I'd mostly just, like I said, I thought about Chinese martial arts movies. They don't make very many good ones, but this was Hong Kong. They got to have some freedom. They got to make a martial arts action movie, and that made me very happy. Liu Zhejiang, while she does not have the most to do here, she does get a few good back and forths with Philip Ng. It's just, Liu Zhejiang is fantastic. If you haven't seen her fight scenes from King of Triads, I recommend looking up Liu Zhejiang, King of Triads, or Liu Zhejiang, Bad Blood, same movie, different title. She's just fantastic. She has a few more bit parts in some other movies. She's in other action movies where she gets to do some cool stuff, but in terms of just making good fight scenes, that's really all she has is King of Triads and maybe a little bit of Ninja Master, but she does have some really good stuff here as well. Andy On is one of my very favorite martial artists of the past decade and a half. Andy On is incredible. Seeing his early stuff in like New Police Story fighting Jackie Chan, in Invisible Target fighting JC Chan, Jackie Chan's son. True Legend, King of Triads fighting against Scott Adkins in Abduction. Andy On is just one of my very favorites. I always want to see Andy On thrive, and Special ID, he's fantastic in Special ID. Seeing him get to do anything makes me happy, and seeing him to get to make good quality fight scenes is always fantastic, and he is very good in this movie, both as just the villain and in the fight scenes. Philip Ung is a very, he's a really great talent, and he won me over with Once Upon a Time in Shanghai. He absolutely owned that movie alongside Andy On, but then he made Birth of the Dragon, where he played Bruce Lee, and while his performance was fine, I absolutely despised that movie. But he's still great. He's charismatic as crap. He's a fantastic martial artist. He is great in this movie. So, you know, I can't fault him for a crap movie from the past that it's not his fault that movie sucked. But he as well, like, he gets the bulk of the action as he is the main character, and he does a fantastic job of that. Vanessa Wu, who I've not really seen fight that much, I've only ever seen do a little bit in Ip Man 4, where he has a bit part who sort of sparks some of the story going on, some like the C plot. He gets a bit more to do in this. He has actually a very good knife fight that I quite enjoyed. It was good to see him go from this annoying character who I really was despising to get some fight scenes and be really cool. He had some very good fight scenes that made me much happier than just him being Jack Sparrow turned up to 1100. The story, as the fight scenes wrapped up around the end of the film, as they wrapped up the film, the story never felt like it was going any specific place. Certain loose ends were tied up with a few character deaths and stuff like that. But like, again, the whole undercover thing, it never really felt like being undercover was that important. The big story was hero has to take down the drug lord or the crime boss. And you know, that's, as long as you take him down, that's really the plot. The whole plot of this movie was, I guess, really just for the fight scenes, because the plot, maybe I'm just wrong here, but the plot didn't really seem to be going anywhere. There were a few twists and turns with who certain characters were. That's about it as far as the complexities of this story. But even though the story was a bit confusing to me, I really wasn't watching it for that. I would give it a higher score if the story was fantastic, though. I am going to give Undercover versus Undercover, or Undercover Punch and Gun, I'm going to give it, let's go, 3.85. 3.85 Fights in a Meth Lab out of 5. 3.85 out of 5. That feels good. That feels right. The story is not that great. However, the actors are very, very charismatic, carrying this movie, carrying this plot to good fight scenes that will also help pad out the rest of the movie until you get the good bunch of fight scenes at the very end. The action's fantastic. All the actors are really, really good. It's just the story I wish was better. But tell me what you thought of Undercover versus Undercover, or Undercover Punch and Gun. Have you seen it? I believe it comes out maybe on the day I put this video out. It'll be on store shelves. I watched it on Hi-Yah, the streaming service. But tell me what you thought of the film in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Head over to Facebook, where there is the Martial Arts Film Freak Facebook page, Martial Arts Film Freak on Instagram, Tristan_Glover on Twitter. Also Tristan Glover, I think I'm just Tristan Glover on TikTok. I don't know. I've started doing a few TikToks. I don't put in that much time into it. Let me see what my freaking name is on here. I think you can just look up Tristan Glover, and you'll probably find me. I've done a few TikToks. I'm going to probably do another one later today because I saw something I could do. Anyway, yes, do all those things that I said. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Your thoughts on this movie. What is your favorite Philip Ung and Andy On and Liu Zhejiang movies? Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Shanghai? I genuinely recommend it. It is a fantastic kung fu film. I kind of want to watch it again. It's so good. Yes, do all that. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.